Hey everybody, welcome to Love and Relo, the voice of the relocation industry. I am your host, Ben Cross, and I am joined live by my lovely producer and the my strength, Janet Turner, here with me.
Come on.
And my co-host. How are you doing, Janet?
I'm doing fantastic, Ben. I just became a grandmother, as everyone knows, and I'm looking forward to get to see her. I came to Colorado a little early to do some self-isolation. I wound up getting some kind of head cold and freaked everyone out, but pretty
Freaked
soon
me out, Janet. You told me you got the head cold, you got the sniffles, you got the cough thing. I was like, oh my goodness.
Everyone was like, no, whoa. But I'm hoping to see her this weekend, and I had my first FaceTime with her and my son last night, so that was pretty exciting.
Janet, before we get into it, okay, you've been telling me about, we've been staying in touch every day, you know, and you're telling me about living in the hotel, right? You're in the extended stay hotel.
Well,
right?
Airbnb.
Airbnb. Oh, you're in the Airbnb.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like a hotel room, but it's a condo Airbnb. Yeah.
Okay. Because you're making chicken soup.
Yep. I'm making chicken soup. I'm sauteing up garlic. I mean, everybody's getting a whiff of what Janet Turner cooks like.
Are your neighbors knocking on the door asking for like a portion, like make me a plate? Like what's going on?
I was thinking of that and it's a 2 little burner electric cooktop, and I'm cooking in like pans like this big. So it's been interesting, and I've been enjoying my own company. So
that's great. Well, it's good to see you, and I'm glad you're feeling better. Do you want to tell us a little bit about our show today and what's going on?
Well, this is our monthly book club, and we always start with first doing a panel discussion. We ask our audience to read the book and join in with us. And Francine Dreste, who is one of our guests, I'll be bringing her out shortly, introduced the book, Is My Homeboy. And so we're going to have a little like coffee shop type of chat about the book. So let's bring forward Francine Dreste. And hey, Francine.
Hey guys, hey Janet, hey Ben, what's going on?
How are you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
So do you want to just, you know what, let's just bring everybody out and then we'll go around and everyone can talk about themselves.
Love it.
How about that? And then next we have Laura Meehan-Agasian. I hope I didn't mess that up. And then we have Victoria McCullar. Everyone here are major fans of the show. They always participate in the comments. They ask questions. They send you cannolis and cookies and all kinds of things. And so why don't we take a minute, Francine, starting with you, and just say a little bit about yourself and maybe what attracted you to want to read this book? Well, you introduced it to us. So.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So I'm Francine Dreste from VIP Corporate Housing. And I met Judi Holler, the author of this book, she was the keynote speaker at GBTA, which is the Global Business Traveler Association. She was at the conference in Chicago last year, so she spoke in front of 3,000 people, and it was like life-changing for me. So if you've read the book, I know we've all read the book. She had a few people come on stage. I was one of those lucky people to learn how to improv with her.
That's awesome.
Totally crazy, but excited for us to read the book together and share it here.
What was that like, Francine? So you saw her because you were the one that told me about Judi, and you told me it was life-changing, but you didn't tell me that she actually brought you on stage, because I've seen some of her keynotes where she brings people up. What was that like, and how afraid were you in that moment, and what made you like tell me that story real quick if you don't mind.
I was absolutely freaked out. I was freaked out, and I'm like, hey, if I can overcome my fear and get on stage and do this, here's the place to do it. Let's just go do it. So I'm shaking. The other 2 people that are up there with me that weren't Judi were also shaking, and we looked at each other like, let's just do this and see what happens.
Yeah.
And how was, I'm sorry, Jan, how was it, Francine?
You know, it was really life-changing because we learned how to improv, and if we want to roll that direction later, we can do it together. And it was really eye-opening that we could really make a hilarious story from what we think is like nothing and not knowing what we're going to say next. And just that's how life is. Life is improv. We don't have a script. So It was really impactful.
Yeah, I was just going to add that for those who did not read the book, Judi Holler studied improv for, I think, 2 years at Second City. So that's her background. So, okay, Laura, you want to tell us a little bit about why you're here and was willing to be part of this panel and why you wanted to be part of this book.
Hi, everyone. I'm Laura Meehan-Agasian. I'm a real estate advisor up in New York with England Brokers. And why did I choose this? I guess part of it, the title itself, Fear is My Homeboy. When I think of fear, I think, like a heebie-jeebie feeling that you're fearing. And so I just wanted to get out of my comfort zone because I've always been a listener on the show. And I said, maybe this is a way for me to fight my fear and get on a live show. And I'm so used to Ben and tuning in. And I met both Victoria and Francine. I spoke to them, I connected with them, spoken to them over the phone. So they're like my, tight friends.
Awesome.
So what better way to hang out with you guys?
Well, welcome to the show. We're glad you're here, and we are so happy that you raised your hand and volunteered to be part of the show. And Victoria?
Thanks, Laura.
Hi, I'm Victoria McCullar. I'm a former senior client services consultant. Currently looking for my next opportunity. And I know Ben must have said this has got Victoria's name on it. Okay, so he'd been talking about it and talk about fear being your homeboy. I kind of took a seat back and was like, oh, I'd really like to do that, but oh, nope, I'm not going to do it. And so I was really glad that you reached out, and I thought, what have I got to lose? It's Ben's show. I feel like I'm at home, and I know the other two ladies and know you. So it was a good time to kind of come on out here live. So I'm happy to be here.
Well, welcome. And Ben, I know I've mentioned it once before. One of the things I love about a book like this is that I love to hear people that I see as professional speakers seem totally confident, get in front of stages like you mentioned, 3,000 people, and do it so well. To hear that person also goes through fear. And Ben, as working with Ben, we all see him, we all love him, and it looks like it's so easy for him. But he has shared with me every show he gets really nervous, some shows more than other. And so I know that I love that about a book like this, or speaking with Ben, and it just helps me feel that I'm not alone. Did you feel like that with reading this book? Is anyone can jump in? I mean, is that part of what you liked about the book?
I did. There were a lot of things on there that really, really spoke to me. And the last couple of months, I've been going through some self motivation. I kind of put out there a couple of weeks ago. I kind of hit a wall, so doing some meditation, a lot of praying, and this book hit on a lot of things that I've been going through, and working on the law of attraction. Trying to be positive, because definitely believe in karma. So there were a lot of things that I picked up from this book, and it's probably a book that I'll go back to and look at my highlights that I put throughout the book. So
yeah. One of the things I liked about the books too is the practical advice that she gave in many of the chapters. So her first chapter was on loving yourself, and she gave some practical advice. Pages like I don't know if you girls have your book. Did you guys pick up and do any of those exercises that she recommended as practical advice for loving yourself? Like listening to a podcast while you're getting, like, just changing the way you do things. And I'm just wondering, there are other exercises in the book, but that happened to be one of the first chapters on loving yourself. So anyone can jump in unless you want me to call on you. We could go around, starting with Francine, but just curious if you picked up on any of the practical tips.
I definitely, Janet, I have my best days when I actually follow that advice. My best days are, listening to a podcast first thing, and then, reading my Bible, and then reading from a book for a few minutes. Those things really just help get my mindset toward like creative thinking and moving forward and getting things done. When I don't do those things, I find myself struggling throughout the day, and I feel like the day wears me versus me winning the day. So,
Laura,
I'm sorry.
Oh,
I just had
go
a
ahead.
question for France. I'm sorry, Laura. Before you, I just
No,
wanted to
yeah,
ask
please
one thing about
jump in.
what Francine said. Do you find that like that's a morning activity for you, or I mean, or is it important to set the tone of the day, or is it kind of an as needed as the day kind of does? I know my mood kind of fluctuates based on things that happen. How do you practice that from like a time of day or timing standpoint?
So I used to read at night, and that was my thing. And I still do read at night, but when I read even a small amount in the morning, it really is so strategic for me and really just sets my mindset. I really have fewer bumps. My day is not a roller coaster. It's more stream, it's more uphill, but like figuring out, like just tackling things easier. So definitely the morning thing for sure definitely helps me.
Mm-hmm. Great.
What about you,
Sorry.
Ben?
Yeah, for me, I went through a phase, and I tend to go through these spurts and these phases, right? Like, I went through a phase where in the morning I would put on Gary V's
Oh yeah.
podcast or whatever in the morning while I was like brushing my teeth or whatever,
Yep.
and that would get my mindset going. Or I'd put on a Audible book on tape, one of my favorite books on tape or something as I would drive into the office. When I went to working from home, that got interrupted. That whole flow, that whole routine got interrupted, and so for me, doing this show becomes that thing for me. Unfortunately, I do this at the end of my day. I kind of almost wish for my own self-help. Like if I did this at like 9 a.m, that would be ideal. The people on the West Coast would be asleep, but I don't care. It'd be for me anyway. So I do this in the morning. It'd be ideal because this gets me so charged up and I feel like I've made an impact. And then the rest of my day, to your point, is like smooth sailing kind of. So anyway, it's just something to be conscious of, I guess, for me as I'm still thinking about it, I guess.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
That's funny you said that, Ben. At 4:00, that's when I tune into you. And one of the things that she says in the book, and it's not the first chapter, but it's your scheduling of the calendar. And from 7 to 11, it's all creative. And then from 1 to 5, it's all, your emails and calling clients and going on appointments and stuff like that. So it's funny that it's almost like 4:00. I go back to being creative with Ben and listening to you. But I mirror what Francine does. I think if I don't do the creative things in the morning, I'm a mess the rest of the day. And sometimes I challenge myself. I'm like, okay, well, I forgot to do this, or it just throws me off. I don't know. It's as maybe I'm getting older, but again, I wake up in the morning. I live in a house, and it's a small backyard, so I automatically take my coffee and go out in the backyard and read my Bible and read some kind of affirmation. Sometimes I'll, write, but from there, then I start reading in the garden because it's like almost like creativity. And as I'm picking up the roots and stuff like that, it's like that's where you get all your creative juices going. And then I come up and I say, okay, I force myself to put on a tape to work out. Because if I don't work out in the morning, I am a mess the rest of the day. Your back hurts and everything. And I grew up in ballet. And so as you get older, again, I need to work out. Well, I think at any age. But it sets the tone. It definitely sets the tone as the day goes by. And the other thing that I do that she implements that I never ever done is take breaks. I never take breaks. And even if it's going downstairs and opening the mail, or I hate to say it, like just wash dishes, just turn your mind off and to do something physical and then get back to where you're going. Like say you were trying to write something, say you were trying to write a proposal or look for, I'm a real estate agent, so I was looking for properties for a client or something like that. I'll just have to like leave the computer and go like do the laundry or something and come back. I think working from home has helped, but yeah. So I definitely agree. Yeah.
I touched on that myself. We're just so work. I forget that we deserve, and she even, I think, has a long lunch break, like take that break and go out to eat or go do something.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of long lunch breaks. Honestly, they're probably not good for my physical health, but they're great for my mental health, and just even like going with somebody from the office or meeting a client or meeting a partner or whatever out. I'm a big fan of taking breaks. I actually saw some studies that said that people are more productive when they take breaks, which is kind of counterintuitive because you're thinking, well, if I work through it, I get an extra hour of productivity, but there's something about being able to recharge and reset, So anyway, I agree with that. But Janet, there was another note as we were talking about this show today, and I wanted to bring up kind of another topic here. The concept of no mistakes, only gifts. Do y'all, did that resonate with anybody, or did that change the way you were thinking at all? Love to hear from somebody on that. Janet,
Well,
did you, or Laura? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that phrase was throughout the book. So no mistakes. I mean, it definitely resonated. I can't even say the word. Resonated with me because I make mistakes every single day, and you learn from them. If you don't make mistakes, how could you learn? How could you become stronger? And that's what she writes throughout the book. I mean, mistakes are a given, especially with, I was going to say, especially in my industry, but it does.
Anybody.
In anyone, nothing goes smoothly. And if it does, then I feel bad for that person because, someone gave me the greatest compliment. They said, you know a lot about many little things. And it's because I've been through people's lives and I help them solve their problems. And if you know one thing throughout your whole life, but because you constantly make mistakes, like you do a real estate transaction, I mean, you meet millions of people, hundreds of people. Everything's different, so you got to learn it a different way. So I love that phrase.
Yeah, and for me, I think it's just accepting yourself as not perfect, because perfection could stem from fear. And so you feel like you have to be perfect, or, and that's where you're afraid to do things or jump in and lead a meeting or co-host a show, or, and that comes from her improv background, where that's where the training came in, that if it was a mistake and everyone worked together, you could just recover quickly by making it a gift and just moving forward with it instead of freezing and feeling like a failure. And because what also was being said throughout the book is fear exists. It's there. It's not going anywhere. So how are you going to deal with the fear? Are you going to embrace it and make it your homeboy and thrive because of it, or let fear drive you to do things? It's the same with the mistakes. Just look at them as gifts, learn from them, like Laura said, and move forward with it. It's been in my mind since I've read it, and even in my personal life with dealing with even family, I've been easier on myself if I didn't do things perfectly.
Giving yourself that permission, right, to not do it perfectly and to like come out. I mean, we've even talked like before the show and stuff with people get nervous coming on here, right? And then before the show, we even say, listen, mistakes are going to happen. We do this all the time. Something goes wrong all the time. Don't worry about it. It's all good. And like kind of like setting the stage with one of the best pieces of advice when I got married, actually, was the wedding planner said, one or two things is going to go wrong tomorrow. Okay. Look for it, smile about it with your partner, and just enjoy the fact that that's like your little thing that happened that day. That's your funny story right on your wedding day.
Right.
And it's
true.
like life is like that, right?
Yep.
Like we're gonna make mistakes. And one of the things that I've even gotten to the point where I try to force the discomfort in my life, and she talks about that, but is I almost like find myself putting myself in a position where mistakes are inevitable, because once you kind of force the mistake to happen, you almost kind of get it out of the way, and then like that's also the Japanese say that the failures are the stepping stones to success, right? And so your mistakes that you make are your kind of your learning lessons, right? In order to get to the genius outcome, you know. So anyway, love this idea.
I think one of the big things is I picked up her IDGAF.
What's that stand for, Victoria?
Well, okay. Is this a G-rated show?
Not if I'm on it, but anyway.
Because I am a perfectionist, and needless to say, in the relocation industry, you're the expert. You know, you're not allowed to make mistakes. I'm the first to jump in on I made a mistake and admit it, because I'm one who typically learns from that mistake and move on. But it's a matter of how well it's accepted by those around you. You got a manager who's got a manager who's got a client. You know, you've got to admit to all of these people, you know, a mistake that you've made when it comes to the business world. And I can tell you, it beat me up for years until I finally took on that acronym. Literally just said at 5 o'clock, it's done. I can't do this anymore, sleeping all night, you know, because I am a perfectionist in my life. I am a type A personality. Then bring on the consulting business, you know, and it can wear on you. So I really appreciate it for giving me the freedom to just say, I don't give a,
Yeah.
you know,
An F.
run.
I want to go through real quick and just honor the people that have left some
But
comments.
I hear feedback somewhere.
It might be the show playing. Does somebody have the show playing maybe or something?
Does somebody have the show playing on their phone? Okay.
Yeah. All right. Eric Scorzelli says, congratulations, Jan.
Thanks, Eric.
Lindy Chapman, oh wow, 3 of my favorite people in mobility.
Hey, Lindy.
And Ben and Janet. That's who didn't make the top 3. That's cool. No worries, Lindy. It's fine. Fernando from Brazil.
What? Ben, you're freezing up.
Let's see. Sandra Clary saying hey.
He's back.
Go ahead, Janet.
No, you were frozen for a moment.
Back. All right. Yeah, as soon as I start pushing buttons, it's just too much of the computer.
Do you want
Jen, you want to take over this responsibility in case I freak out?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great. Just get some shout outs.
Okay, we have
Janaina. Hey, from Brazil, really excited about this.
Jana for short.
Janaina.
I can't get that straight for some reason. We have a guest from Saudi Arabia. I'm not sure who this is, but she's thanking you, Ben. All right, I'll just put them up. You talk.
I don't know. Well, Lindy here. Lindy, this is a yes to getting out of our comfort zone. Laura Meehan-Agasian. If you remember, I asked you to be on Reload Talk months ago. So now that you've overcome your fear, I'll be asking you again. Lindy comes on here just like taking shots. She's trying to steal my producer, steal all my guests. Oh, geez, Lindy. No,
I knew this was going to happen.
and here, Lindy's giving me a little plug.
Yep, she is.
Lindy, Ben and I have a joke. In fact, he said he was going to get T-shirts made up. I don't know if you girls and audience have heard this before, but Lindy was one of the first people that said, I need a Janet. And then a couple of people have said that afterwards. So I keep telling Ben, I'm getting job offers over here. So,
and I told her to take them. If they can afford you, take them.
They can't feed me. They can't pay me the amount of love I get from you. So Lindy,
love you so much. Katie Jo Palmer, I have overcome fear by facing them again, which does not necessarily get rid of the fear or anxiety, but lets me realize it did not kill me, and I'm still standing and smiling. I feel I can constantly try what makes me anxious and embrace those emotions as they are strengths, not weaknesses. Life is a daily challenge, and that is the joy of living. Have you ever felt this way, or kind of does this resonate with you at all? Anybody?
Oh, yeah.
How so?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if we're not facing our fears, then we're not growing. so easier said than done some days, because some days our fears, they weight us down. And it's, she gives us some really actionable things to kind of help with that. And starting our days with success, with progress, helping us to think a little bit more critically, really helps that. Because the days that I don't, I stumble, and I can go through things that I have been afraid of, and things that I'm still struggling with. But I need to keep trying and keep getting better. And just like Victoria said, perfectionism, or I've got a few other ones like procrastination because of something that I'm struggling with and I need to do it. And just have to figure it out. And the more that we figure it out, the better that we become and the better that we feel. Just like what Katie said, she's alive. She has joy in the process and dealing with her fear. And so she fears less now.
And isn't it so interesting? So going back to Katie Jo's comment here, isn't it so interesting? Lets me realize it did not kill me and I'm still standing and smiling. But sometimes fear feels like a life or death scenario, right? I mean, it could just be coming on a podcast, but it feels like I'm literally going to die right now. It's like, but obviously, like logically, we know we're not going to die, but it's a fate worse than death. You know what I mean? It's like, how do we like...
She has a little exercise in there like that. Like, what's the worst case scenario? Like, I know in times I've said to myself, what's going to happen? That person's going to chop my head off? No, chances are that's not going to happen. Like, I would go to that extreme. What's the worst case? So she has an exercise like that. Like what, to write that out. She encourages you to write out what's your worst case scenario? What's the positive things that can come out of the worst case scenario? How will I recover from the worst case scenario? And who can help me recover from the worst case scenario, which is another key important thing, is having your tribe, which is another thing she touches on, versus energy vampires. So we could get into that. But I was curious, can anyone recall a time when you did choose courage over comfort?
I'll give you a fun one. Okay. My life kind of started again in 2005 after I got divorced after 32 years. And I joined a bunch of groups and meetup groups and things like that. And I'm kind of getting out there and things. And I actually joined a group called, I can't remember, but I went actually zip lining. And if you know anything about me, okay, I was supposed to go with my girlfriend. She couldn't make it. I ended up going with a bunch of strangers, okay, and you practice at first. And once I was like, okay, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. You're going up the steps and you're waiting for your turn to get on the first platform. I was like, I can do this. I can do this. And once I got up there and I realized, okay, there's no turning back. And, the guy was like, okay, you're going to go. Are you going to jump? I'm like, okay, wait. Okay. No, wait. Okay. And I made it over three spots, and it got to the last one. I was so shaken. I was just, because there was no turning back once I got to number 2, once I got to number 3, and then when I got to the 4th one, it was on the ground. And needless to say, I was physically shaking, and they were so worried about me, and they said, do you want to go on the last one, because it's really the longest one, or we could have someone come and get you, but the ride back up there is probably more treacherous than the zip line. But I couldn't do the last one. But everybody just kind of, like, wow, you did it. And that was like, to me, I still go back to that moment, because I had to jump. There was nowhere else to go. And I always go back to say, I can jump. I can do it. I can step off,
awesome. Right.
My heart will stop. I'll probably be like this. But you know what? I'll get over it. And I always go back to that moment in time.
That's awesome that you have that to go back on. And kudos to you, because I tried it and I could not. And my son was about 12 and he was so disappointed in me. And that was the last thing I wanted to do. And I thought I could do anything and I could not jump off. It was like a rooftop thing. And I was like right there and I was like, I can't do it. So yeah, good for you. And you have that to look back on, like you said.
I do. I draw from it often.
Yeah.
So did you feel like, Victoria, that you could conquer the world after you did that?
I did. And not only that, but like I said, I was entering a new life and doing new things, and it was kind of a new world. I don't know what happened. Somehow I got bogged down, and life happened, and you work and you move on, and things go on. And, now, of course, I've been home since February, and I really miss being out in the world, and doing things. So that's really the challenge that I now have to overcome on a daily basis. Can't see my family as often or my friends as often, and can't travel the way I used to like to. But, they're memories.
I think the key, the thing too, is how do we do that every day?
Mm-hmm.
How do we jump off the zip line or whatever every day? Because I think that we've all had moments where we've conquered tremendous fear, and or sometimes, but I think more often, you know, it gets the best of us, right? And so, like, if there's a scoreboard of fear versus us, it's like fear is probably really running up the points. I'll be honest with you. There's a lot more things in my life that I think I've not done than I have done, and I think that people look at me as a person that conquers a lot of fear by doing like this type of show and put myself out there in all sorts of ways. But the truth of the matter is, A, I'm still terrified about doing this. I'm 120 episodes in. B, there's so many things on my list of things I want to do that I haven't done yet because I'm too afraid. And so it's like, for me, my personal journey where I'm at is like, how do I conquer my fear every day? How do I lean into that and find the courage to, to jump,
I got
every
something.
day?
I got a challenge for you if I can.
Oh,
It's taken. No, it's taken from Judi's book, because after she talks about choosing courage over comfort, she says, "Do you believe that that's world changing?" And so I think if you think, because you're such an encourager and someone that wants to do good, if you think instead of, this is fear, I could change the world or change one person. And by changing one person, I might be able to change 10 by me stepping out and doing this. I think that could be something that I could see fueling your desire to, on a daily basis, to overcome fear.
Yeah, I mean that'd be great. I mean that's part of what we do here, right, Janet? Is every day we try to put some piece of content out that might change somebody's life, and then in order for them maybe to change someone else's, right, create a ripple effect and uplift our community, our relocation and global mobility community, right? And so, yeah, that's the idea. But how do we then scale that, right? Because at some point this becomes comfortable. Right. And then at what point then do you step out of this and say, okay, how can we even do this in a bigger way, where instead of, 30, 40 people watching at any given time or 100 people watching during the course of a show, how do we 10x that, and reach more people, and that to me is scary because this now becomes my baseline comfort level and I want to do more. So anyway, just something I struggle with. But Janet, you're a big encourager for me, and all of you are. Francine, Laura, Victoria, you all encourage us when you hop on and you leave comments and everything. I'm so grateful. I just want to take a moment to say thank you so much. I'm so grateful to all of you for just being there and supporting and just leaving those little comments and things. And I know you've told me that you really enjoy the program, but I really, 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 truly, sincerely enjoy you. And it means the world to me. Thank you so much.
And I don't know,
go ahead.
told a lot of family and friends about you, Ben. LinkedIn has become, kind of my life, and I call you my LinkedIn mentor. But I want to thank you, honestly. I know, I think sometimes maybe you kind of get not quite frustrated at me, but kind of like, just do it, Victoria. I can't do a video, okay? And it's like, oh my God, you don't know how many takes I did on this video. I'm just going to put it out there. I don't care, So it's the little things. So just to let you know, I hear you. And fear is right there next to me, okay? And so
am I, Victoria.
so,
I'm right here with you.
Thank you. But thank you for all you do, honestly.
Appreciate you.
Absolutely. I echo that. I mean, Ben, Janet, you guys rock it every single day. Like, you're helping us grow in so many different ways. You're getting different guests on to bringing different topics of conversation, really helping us grow, helping develop us. And we want to help encourage you and help develop you guys too, if we can. This is our community, and you guys have built this community. You're cultivating. That's basically it. You're cultivating, facilitating, this connection during this time where we're so needing that information, and you're there for us. And so we're there for you too. So
thank you so much. We've got some really cool comments coming in, and we'll get back into the book stuff too. I know Jan's got a lot of questions lined up for us, but Jana Masick, what a fantastic team gathered today.
Oh, thank you, Jana.
Very cool.
Thank you for all you do too, Jana. She's always putting herself out there.
Yep, for sure. Thank you, Jana. And Jana's going to be on the show this week, isn't she?
That's right. Friday,
I believe. Yeah. Cool. We're quoting Patch Adams. Oh, I love it. I love when the UK chimes in. It's always a little later there. There's always a little more booze flowing. Felicia says, yes, you definitely learn from mistakes. Don't be afraid to admit it as well. It makes you feel good that you can make a mistake and learn. Yeah, once you start admitting your mistakes and you kind of own them, and you realize that you define what they are to you, they don't define you. It's like it flips the whole power dynamic. It takes all the wind out of the sails of the mistakes. Trying to be a perfectionist is very stressful, and I learned that lesson as well. Good job, Victoria and Felicia. Lindy Chapman, I'm your biggest fan. Hey, Lindy, thank you. I respect what you do so much, Lindy, and I love your intros and the production quality that you have on your shows. So very, very big fan of yours as well. Mena, there's nothing called mistakes, only unsuccessful trials. All right. Jana, agree. Francine Dreste, we grow by overcoming fears. Fantastic. Molly, checking in. Janine, every time I meet Victoria, I just love her more and more. You are lovely and inspiring. And I go ahead, Jan.
No, I just think it's so wonderful and encouraging. The family that's grown in this in the audience, So
it does feel kind of like a little family, a little community that we developed here. Katie Jo Palmer says, Victoria, I had some same experience with ziplining in Dominican Republic, and on the fourth one, I literally was shaking after. It was so scary, but everyone cheered me on, and I had no choice but to just do the final fifth one. I did it. I needed a gin and tonic after it, though, for sure.
Or straight gin.
Love it, Elena. Awesome, prima. There you go. Sharon Wilson, kudos, Victoria. Let's see here. Mena, the successful is not about mistakes, it's about how smart you solve the issue. Mena from Dubai checking in. Molly says, Ben, it's so easy to be your friend. That's sweet, Molly. Thank you so much. Well, Molly's another special one. I've met her in a couple of things that we've done offline, and she's always such a big supporter, and fantastic human being. And I think that there's so many fantastic people. Sandra, here's another one. In my experience, when fear results in us avoiding doing something that is important but seems so daunting, often the price and results of avoidance exceed the benefit of avoiding. Mm-hmm. Having situations to remind myself when worst case scenario didn't actually become worst case, or reminding myself of past downsides of delay or avoidance are helpful to me in jumping into start. Well begun is half done. I think that's interesting because we talk about worst case, right? We say, okay, worst case scenario, I get on here and I get fired because somebody doesn't like something I say, right? That's like that one. It's like, okay, that's a 1% chance. By the way, nobody's ever been fired. It's been on 11 million, at least not for anything I said here. But no, that's like a 1% chance. But then there's like a 98%, 99, 1%, like nothing happens, and then 98% is like upside. So we also have to balance, I think, with a reasonable proportion, right? Of what. Okay, the downside is bad and could happen, but the upside is great also and very likely. So how do we weight that more, and how do we recalibrate the way that we look at fear makes us enlarge the downside and make it way more likely than I think it truly is. Does that make sense at all?
I agree.
Fear can be paralyzing. I mean, literally, physically paralyzing sometimes. And exactly what Sandra said, you don't think you're going to get through it. You're just going to die, And I used to always say, if I could just go to sleep when I go to bed, because when I wake up in the morning, I just believed honestly, and it was true. My worst fears, I thought I was going to get fired that day, or I thought this was going to happen, or something was going to happen. And you know what? I was the only one worked up about it. That person I was, fearful of seeing or whatever, it was like, whatever, I mean, so I worked myself up into that frenzy.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we can definitely, and I think we just have to find those ways to let them out. And those are the things that I'm learning now. Again, with my meditation, I'm really, really into meditation. I have to say, it's taken me to some places that I didn't think I'd ever go. And visualization, um,
Mm-hmm.
bringing in my future, forget about the past, but the future, and so that's really begun to help me to let go of the fears. So not always homeboy's still sitting there, but
Right.
He's
That's one of the things she says. It's still there, going to be there. Yep.
yeah. Janet, you had some other really cool.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, what Victoria touched on. She gives some. I'm trying to find it in the book, like the fear I'm going to get fired, and how you can respond to that. So she gives a lot of different responses to what you can. So it's sort of like a change of your mind and mindful thinking. When you feel the fear, just become your own boss up. That's her whole boss up. Become your own CEO of yourself. Take charge, just like you would with your job. Take charge of yourself and boss up with your fears, because they're going to be there no matter what we do. Go ahead,
Janet. What about the concept we were talking? Oh, I'm sorry. Did I interrupt somebody?
No.
Okay.
I was going to say something, but go ahead.
Laura. No, Laura. Go ahead. This is about you.
Well, what she talks about is with fear, like she starts, the first chapter is all about self-love and being your own boss and CEO, like you said. And then each chapter builds. It has the management, it has inviting people into your sphere, and it just builds. But it keeps coming back. She keeps bringing that fear. And almost every chapter, fear, the word, becomes human. She humanizes it. But she keeps circling back to, well, fear, this is the guy, he's going to be on your shoulder. But if you don't deal with the fear, then it circles back to the, taking care of yourself. What I liked, and maybe because I'm a language person, every word that she brought, like fear, procrastination, anxiety, she almost makes them become human. So, and then the positive words are action, courage. It's almost like she humanizes the words, and that's how fear is able to dissolve, because fear is always going to be there. And like when she was talking about fear going to the party, and she'll say, okay, you're coming to the party, but go sit in the corner, and I'm going to do this. And she's actually having a conversation, and she talks herself out of it. So like with me, anxiety and fight and flight, once I have that fear, it's almost, I have to immediately get up and do something. I have to go and find an article on LinkedIn and make a story about it, because I'm a storyteller. It's almost like I have to switch my brain, because it's always going to be there. And it's up to me to say, you know what, I am exhausted with this. I have to either physically get up out of bed, or whatever you're thinking, you get up, and it's like fight or flight. You switch gears. You either sit there or you get up. So that's what amazed me about that book, is all that language, all those words, procrastination, because that's my word. Momentum became my greatest word too. They became human. And once you think of them as humans, then you kind of deal with them better. I don't know. That's how what I got out of the book.
That's great. I love it.
Yeah. I don't know about what you guys thought.
I think you're right. And you hit it right on. I think that's the perfect way to describe it. And she writes little notes to fear. And
I like the letter she wrote to fear.
When you personify something, like too, you can now it can only exist in one place at one time. So you can sit it in a corner, you can compartmentalize it, you can push it over there, right? It's not like it just hovers around everywhere. You can kind of put it over there now. You can talk to it, right? So you can set boundaries with it, right? And so it kind of helps you put your arms around it when you do that. I think that's a very interesting device that you
I have
described
to
there.
tell you about this 1 week that I'm totally by myself so far. Yesterday was my 7th day, and I noticed that I'm totally talking out loud to myself over here. So, yeah.
Is that a new thing for you?
No, not really. I'm just joking. But I do self-talk.
I talk to myself.
No,
All the time.
I do. But I noticed I'm doing it a little bit more. Like, I was just like, okay, that's so crazy. But yeah.
You talked about something, Jen. I want to bring something up because
Yeah.
I want to make sure we make time for this topic about people in our lives, right? And you talked to me about this before, and you thought that this was important, and I wanted I wanted to ask you to kind of bring it up and talk about the people in our lives and do they bring fear into our lives or not?
Oh, the energy vampires versus our tribes. And, you know, Ben and I were talking, and I don't even know where to begin with this, because I know in my own life as a mom, a lot of my responses to my son was based out of fear. So I wonder, like, what do we do? One of the things I don't think she really touched on in the book is, what do we do when people respond to us through their fear? How do we respond to that? And I guess in a way that could be her energy vampire. So some of these energy vampires could be people that are pretty close to us, like a parent, you know, like a spouse. And so, you know, I guess on the opposite, having a tribe that you could go to because we love these people. We don't want these people not in our lives, but sometimes those we love could be energy vampires. And I was curious, and maybe for the audience and for our ladies that are on the show, how do we respond to people that respond to us out of their fear? And how could we recognize that, I guess? Instead of feeling discouraged by their responses, maybe realize it's coming from fear.
And we don't have to name them.
Yeah.
We don't have to call them out. And you know, but I'd love to hear, I mean, if you have people like that, and I think we all do in our life, right? Who have fear in themselves and then make it our problem also, and now make us more fearful. And how do we deal, you know, how do you deal with that?
And this book even made me stop and look at myself too, throughout these, you know, days of reading it, of where I was maybe responding out of fear. So, yeah. Okay.
Thoughts?
Take it away.
You know, I can tell you, it took me a while, but as a consultant dealing with, you know, the stress of relocating, and these employees who relocate often and often, and the way it comes out, a lot of it is fear. You know, you take on their negativity, or you try not to take on their negativity. You try not to take it personally, sometimes. But in my own life, I begin to wonder, am I the negative vampire for my friends or whatever? You know, am I too needy? You know, and I've got some good strong friends, and I've got one who's, you know, definitely, her faith keeps me going, and I know when I get on her nerves, and she'll say, "I'll just love you through it." And I'm thinking, oh, okay, I guess I went one step too far. Okay, so I have to kind of look at myself, you know.
That's funny.
So fear, I think, comes out of people in many different ways, and we may not always recognize it as fear on their part, or even fear on our own part. And again, the book has really begun to make me think a lot of different things, and how do I then put that away, and recognize it basically, and then deal with it. You know, so I think that's we all have to face that at some point or other.
Victoria, that totally, I mean, you said a lot there. And I wanted to touch on something you said about working with people, you know, your employees that you're relocating, because fear has actually stopped me earlier in life from relocating with a job. And fear has also stopped me from traveling earlier in life, as well. And so then mentioned the question about how do we see those things and how do we have those conversations. So you mentioned that you've seen that. So what are some of those behaviors that you saw that come up that you've figured out were fear in your employees and your team members?
Well, for employees, the good thing is for those who I had moved often, I had called them repeat customers. I got to know them, and I can anticipate what they were feeling. If they were the first time that I worked with them, it's kind of probing and asking, about them and their family. What do they think about the move? Sometimes it was a good decision. Sometimes it was I have to move in order to keep a job. Um, but it was really then kind of putting them at ease by kind of being a little bit proactive into here's what's going to happen. It didn't always go well. I can tell you there were some real tough conversations sometimes. I mean, I got chewed out many a times. I mean, my whole team did. We would hear each other. I mean, it was the worst thing. I mean, everybody around you could hear you being chewed out by somebody. But you then kind of hang up and you kind of just, okay, move on. And then you try to think, okay, next time I talk to them, how can I be a little bit more positive? You start off with what do they need to hear? What do I need to do for them to get them over this hump, to get them safely settled? So there were a lot of emotions, but I think having done it for so many years, and again, I was on one client for the last 14 years, so I knew the culture, and again, a lot of people who I had moved over and over again. So it kind of came second nature to me. And it's just something I find that I do well. So when I look for my next career, this is kind of what I build on, is this is something that I've done really well. And I think I've been able to get people into a good place, and I guess that comes too from their service evaluations, which,
Yeah.
we're usually pretty good. So.
Francine, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
What were you afraid of when you made those decisions to relocate or to travel? What were you able to identify them at that time? Like, do you think you would be different today?
Sure. Yeah, I think I would be different today. I still stayed in the field that I was in. I've been in real estate, property management, and transitioned to corporate housing. I've moved across the country and relocated, but I did it with someone else. So I think part of that was being a female and, not being strong enough by myself to say, hey, yep, I'm going to pick up all my stuff and I'm going to move from A to B and just figure it out. I wanted to play it safe and said, hey, I've got more opportunities where I'm at least that's what I told myself. And I said no. I had a couple different opportunities where I said no. I stayed. And could life be different for me? I believe that it would be different. I made the best with the decisions that I made and learned from them. But it's not until later in life that I actually identified that was actually fear that was holding me back from making those choices. And Victoria, I mean, that's empathy, girl. That is amazing that you can, identify those things and work with people and have those conversations and get them settled. So kudos to you. So.
And I'll say to you, Francine, some of the things I began to do when I was rebuilding my life, doing a lot of things with Victoria. I'd go to the movies by myself. I'd go out and eat by myself. I began to take short trips by myself. My friends and family were like, I can't believe you're doing this. I mean, I would take a weekend off and go to a bed and breakfast, but being with me and kind of enjoying me. And so I had some milestones that I think I've gone through over the years. And I think I miss that so much right now, just to be able to travel or just to be able to go somewhere other than the grocery store.
Right.
Yeah, and I think she touches on those two things that you girls are talking about. One is, are you loving what you do, or do you feel safe? And I think a lot of us operate where we feel safe instead of taking a chance that it might not be as safe,
Does anybody feel like, I mean, Victoria, you were candid enough to admit this. I mean, does anybody feel like sometimes we're the energy vampires for other people? I know I have energy vampires in my own life, but I also probably could be an energy vampire for somebody else. I think, yeah, I think about some people that don't take my phone call, and it's probably because they're like, geez, I can't deal with this guy. He's way too extra right now. I cannot. I know if I pick up this phone call, it's a 35-minute conversation because banks just can't talk for 5 minutes, you know? So do we feel like we're energy vampires for anybody else?
I think we all can be. I mean, I think it really just depends on, obviously, we're all very optimistic, encouraging people, but sure, there's a moment where to my husband, I'm, probably, I think he's, and he is to me sometimes. I love him dearly, but sometimes it's just being honest.
Yeah, I guess if I thought of it that way, because I was going to be in denial and say no. I'm so positive and uplifting, but actually that does get me in trouble. The one thing my husband cannot stand from me is when he feels like I defend other people instead of him. But I don't. I that's what I do. If somebody's upset, I start explaining the other people that made them upset. And that never goes well for me. So I guess that could suck somebody's energy because I don't want anybody. So it comes from a good intention, but meantime, I'm stopping their feeling about the situation by
yes.
By
my wife does that to me too.
They do this because of that. Oh, they yeah, and it drives my husband crazy. Yeah. And then I'm so surprised when he says, "Stop defending other people. Why don't you defend me?" And I'm thinking, I didn't know I wasn't defending you. I didn't mean it that way, So I guess I am a vampire, huh? Wow. Good thought, Fred.
Does anybody else have any other thoughts about that and how we manage the people? What about creating our tribe, right? Do you feel we had Paige Holden on our show weeks ago, and she talked about her personal board of directors, and do any of you, or have any of you, or how have you selected those people in your life based on the energy that they bring and the encouragement that they bring, and how have you managed those people in your life and your tribe?
Well, I think with me during this whole time on lockdown, these past 4 months, I had an opportunity to, you clean your database, you look at your people who you have in your sphere, and people in your phone who you call. And it's like me, myself, and I in a room, and you pick up the phone and you'll say, okay, when was the last time I spoke with this one? When was the last time I spoke with this one? This one, she gave me a headache. It's not that everyone has to be 100% for Laura, but it's almost like cleaning out a closet. And you want to clean out the closet. I had 7 pairs of fancy shoes, and I'm like, I'm not going to wear these. I'm a broker in the street, I'm not going to wear these fancy shoes. So I had to let them go to my niece. It's the same.
So are you deleting people in your phone? You're like going through and like, forget you gave me a headache one time. You gave me an aneurysm. My feet hurt talking to you. Like, you just go through and start deleting people because of your physical maladies that you have.
I'm a storyteller, so I have to give you the back end. But it's,
I love
but
it.
that's how you look at it, and you have time to reflect, and you say, okay, when you eliminate certain people, you invite, wow, gee, I just met this girl Francine. She's pretty cool. And, Victoria, how she said, why don't I know you? Who says to me, why don't I know you? I should know you. Can we? And I'm like, okay, let's talk next week. I mean, we were on the phone for like 40 minutes, talking about where your family lived. Was it Brooklyn? Or
no, Manhattan.
I forgot.
Manhattan.
It was the city, right? And Upper East Side, Spanish Harlem. So it's just that sometimes you have to let go of the people in order to see how good the people that you have in, like, wow, this person is genuine, and I haven't spoken to this person in a long time because I've been speaking to this person for the last couple of months who, you know.
Have Francine or Victoria, are there people in your life that maybe you've kind of pruned out of your life because they maybe were takers more than they were givers, or maybe they were keeping you from advancing to another stage of your life or phase of your mindset?
That's the good word. Takers instead of givers.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and it's not that you have to give.
I have circles of friends, close friends who I probably count on maybe in one hand that I've known for many, many, many years. Then it kind of goes out a little bit more. But I'm kind of I guess because I'm a bit of a direct person sometimes. The New Yorker comes out in me. I don't have time sometimes for superficial. Because when I give as a friend, I give as a friend. And then there are acquaintances. I've always been hurt by acquaintances. I've really, over the years, kind of surprised by people sometimes. I'm kind of like, maybe I didn't quite, moving to the South was quite different, that people kind of talk in circles a little bit. You have to stop and think, what did they mean by that? You don't have any trouble understanding what I meant when I say something. I have to temper it down sometimes. So for me, I maybe go through my LinkedIn and be like, okay, delete. Some people annoy me. It's honestly, I don't know you. Why are you bugging me? Delete. So I think more of LinkedIn. I go out and clear it. Rather than my personal.
Oh, that's great. That's so funny. Francine, were you going to say something to that?
No, for sure. I mean, there's definitely people that I have very few close friends, like tell anything kind of thing that I know, like, hey, they'll give me the straight shooting, hey, that's a really bad idea, Francine, or hey, yeah, go for it. And it could be the craziest thing and they're all about it. But, they've never stopped me from doing anything or been like, oh my gosh, hey, I did something super well, or I got an award. They weren't in the corner like, I can't believe that she did that. I mean, or hey man, I made this really, horrible mistake, and hey girl, it's all good. Like, well, what'd you learn from it? Let's figure it out. Like, hey, how can you not do that again? I'm like, oh God. I'm like, just the, the encourager, the straight feedback, and yeah, I'm from Philly originally. So yeah, I get it. Like, I'm definitely more of an East Coast to the point, even though I use more words apparently. So I'll stop now.
That's great. I appreciate it. We got some really cool comments. I want to make sure I get everybody's comment in here. Yeah. Janaina says we are a big family. Molly says we put together a great team. Elena says, in the moment, fear always appears bigger than what it really is. It's great to have friends like Ben to push you outside of your comfort zone. Well, you know what? I'm going to tell a story about Elena that I haven't told on this show, but she pushed me real hard, real early, before we were even friends. She kind of, and I'm gonna call her out a little bit. She kind of called me out, honestly, for some stuff or some perceived blind spots or whatever. I was kind of going through a thing where I didn't have enough women on my show, enough people of color on my show, and she kind of like approached me privately and said, "Hey, I think maybe you're going about this wrong." And honestly, that was really hard for me to hear because I thought I was putting myself in a very vulnerable position. But she pushed me outside my comfort zone, and when I read this, my first reaction was hurt. I reread it. My second reaction was anger, and then I reread it, and my third reaction was introspection, and then my fourth reaction was I need to call her and I need to talk to her. And I talked to her, and we had a conversation. The first conversation was kind of interesting. It was kind of feeling each other out. Second, third, fourth, she's come on the show multiple times, and she's really been a beacon for me of just direction and feedback and just helping me and being a real ally for me. And I appreciate you so much, Elena, for allowing me to push you and for pushing me also. And I think, anyway, she's really special to me for that reason. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you. Lindy, Elena, so true. Katie Jo Palmer, you all are awesome.
Thank you, Katie.
Yeah. Isn't that sweet?
Yes.
Janaina couldn't agree more. I roped Janaina into a whole week of co-hosting. Janet, you can sympathize.
Yes. She was a natural, though.
She was great. She grew. And what was funny about Janaina is that, and here I'm going to put one of her newer things up, is she leapt into it, not knowing what she was really getting into and really not necessarily signing up for so much. But I was like, no, you're going to be a co-host and you're going to lead us and you're an intro. And she started off kind of being like you know, kind of not having it. By the time Friday hit, she was like, you know, on it, you know, and she was like, I mean, she was great. And it was so fun.
She's ready to start her own show.
I know she's going to just come in. Yeah, she is. She's going to just come and start a franchise down in Brazil, right? But just to see people's growth arc in those 5, and every show is an uncomfortable situation, right? And so every day we were doing something uncomfortable, and each day she kind of grew in it, right? And I probably still is uncomfortable for her by Friday, and if she were to do something else, it's probably uncomfortable. But she just gotten stronger in that discomfort. And I find that, like, if you can make something that terrifies you, or you're afraid of, or is a weakness of some sort, if you can flip that and you can lean into it and make that a strength, think about how strong you would be if you took your weakest attributes and make them your strengths, you know? And I think that's the upside too, that we can really discover when we look at, you know, books like Is My Homeboy and this journey with fear. So that was my little diatribe here. I want to go through some more of the comments here, Janaina. I always know that I'm far from perfection, but I keep in my mind that I can only get better if I put myself there. Nobody can reach our goals for us. Sometimes it hurts more, but time will pass in one way or another. So let's keep building from our hard times and imperfections. Yeah, that's awesome. Elena Caldwell, I took a leap of faith, started my own business. I go live a lot and was so scared, but now I love it. I just had to do it. That's fantastic.
That's my cousin.
Love that. Oh yeah, that's so. So she started her own business. How cool is that? And how long ago was that? Do you know, Victoria?
Within the last year, she's a Facebook kind of growing person. I've enjoyed watching her go through and grow her business. She can do a camera on live Facebook like nobody's business.
Okay, all right. Let me find out. Okay, let's see here. Jeff Nadeau, fear is within. Go for it. There you go. Sharon says limited times for those energy vampires in our life. Scott Williamson, hello from Dallas. Great discussion. Janaina, fantastic. Victoria McCullar, people get so surprised seeing us, especially women, happy and enjoying our own company. Normally, my friends answer that they are afraid of what people will think about it, that people will feel sorry for them. She's talking about when you would go out on your own and just be with Victoria. But at the same time, they wish they were having the courage to do it. You know, and I feel like this is something that this is one of those things also, I think, that is a specific fear, or maybe even more so for women, is being alone out in public and doing something on your own. And this is something I've learned as we've done more studies about women and allyship and things like this, and understanding. But you know, I also enjoy stuff like that. I'm actually getting ready for my family's leaving for 2 weeks, and I'm about to go do a lot of stuff with Ben, you know, so I hear you on that. Do you think that is I'm about to ask more questions and we're going to go long here, but do you think that is like an empowering thing? Like, do you all kind of do stuff like that, where you do things out on your own, and do you find that is kind of empowering, or is that still a source of fear, or where are you with that? Maybe I'll ask Francine and Laura, since we kind of heard from Victoria on this. Is that something that y'all do at all?
Well, I think with me, I've always worked in the city. I've lived in the city for many years. And the city is very crowded, but it could be very lonely. And so if you don't have a person to go downstairs and eat, or to go see a movie, like Victoria said, then the city makes it easy to eat alone, to go to the movies alone, to go see an event by yourself. It's almost like there's more single people. And I'm not talking about marriage. There's more single people in the city. And I think it's when you're in that environment, like I have no problem walking into a restaurant, or I love walking into, I was going to say a deli, but a place where I always sit at the counter and I eat by myself. I almost like cherish that, because I help so many people. I'm so involved with people that I love being alone. I'm a loner. And my husband jokes about that. He always says, go do your thing, go do your thing. Because if I'm not alone, then it doesn't make, I like being alone.
Yeah.
I don't know, because I'm always with people and I'm always taking care of people. And I think it's the environment that when I was growing up in the country in Long Island, there was no such thing as going to the movies by yourself or eating in a restaurant by yourself. In the city, you just go in, table for one, okay, it's a given. It's a given.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that those years in my 20s, 30s, 40s, that I do it, I just do it. And it ends up being something that, and it says it and she says it in the book, you travel alone, you do things by yourself, because, it does make you stronger. It does.
Absolutely.
Come hang out with me, Francine.
Absolutely. Yeah. I enjoy traveling now by myself. Yeah. I feel more comfortable going up into a restaurant and sitting at a bar and I talk to people. Like I order like lunch or dinner and then end up with a client and then help them with the project and travel to wherever they're going. It's definitely gotten much easier. And just like Ben said, you turn your maybe weaknesses into strengths and having conversations and connections and relationships for sure.
I love it, and we're over right now, Janet.
Yeah. Yes, I know.
What are you thinking?
I was just going to end it with two things. When you spoke about Janaina, I said it a little bit better. How she grew. That one of the things that Judi talked about was that courage is contagious. Fear is contagious, but so is courage. So as you keep getting stronger, or if you see other people building their courage, then it's going to become contagious. And then I figured I would leave it with, I like that she talks about how fear can fuel your focus. So instead of you thinking of fear making me shake, I don't want to do it, I don't want to get up there and, looking at it, how it can fuel you, like fear of running out of money keeps you saving money, perhaps. Fear of becoming irrelevant keeps you reading and learning. Fear of getting sick keeps you eating healthier. So if we look at using fear as a fuel for us, and like Laura touched on, make it into a person, talk to it, let it fuel you instead of looking at it as something you don't even want to admit that you have.
Yeah, I like what you're saying there, Janet. I think that's a great final thought, and maybe let's go around and ask everybody if they wouldn't mind just kind of leaving us with something that you really love from this book, or something that you found. Francine, would you give us a final word?
This book has helped me be myself, if that makes sense. And overcoming fears and just getting out of your comfort zone and just really being who you're meant to be. And so I've really enjoyed rereading this book and really just digging into more and figuring that out. So.
And thank you for recommending it, Francine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Laura?
Well, the first time, the cover made me fearful, but as I read through it, it's fearless, or it's a great book to read, and it has amazing quotes. Run your own race. I mean, there's like endless affirmations that you could say to yourself. But again, the other thing, at the end of each chapter is a tasks, and those tasks are not hard tasks. They're very easy to implement in your life, and so I'm excited about it.
Awesome. Thank you, and thank you for being here, Laura. It's been great having you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for pushing me, Janet.
Thank you.
Yeah, Janet's asking Laura, like, so what made you volunteer to be on the show? And Laura's just laughing the whole time, like, volunteer. I got volunteer like it was Vietnam over here.
Maybe if I get the book on time, she's like, good, what's your email?
Oh, love it. I love it. Victoria, would you leave us with a final word?
Well, I agree with everybody. This book really made me look internally, and made me not so afraid of fear. We all have it. We all deal with it in different ways. And again, like I said, this will be a book that I go back and reflect on and pick out points and maybe do some of the exercises. I was too busy trying to get through the book. So there's a lot to go back and be able to do as far as exercises. So, and again, this pushed me, out of my comfort zone, Ben. So I really appreciate it. And thank you, Janet. I kind of laughed when I got your email, but I was really glad you reached out. Thank you. And thank you to all my family and friends who joined me. I appreciate it for the
Awesome.
support.
Yeah. It's so cool having them come on, isn't it? And
Yeah.
give you a little shout out and stuff. I mean,
Mm.
it just it makes you.
That's my friend there.
Yeah, isn't that wonderful? Isn't that wonderful? And these are the folks out here, I think, that are, the people that build us up, and make us stronger here.
Exactly.
I would encourage everybody to put yourself out there, because as you're watching this right now, you're seeing folks who are checking in and who are enriching our lives. And this is the byproduct of putting yourself out there. So
Mhm.
one of the fears of putting yourself out there is you're going to look stupid, and people are going to criticize you, and they're going to, say all sorts of nasty things about you, like you're in elementary school. But that's probably not going to really happen. What's probably going to happen is people are going to leave really beautiful comments like, "You got me misty eyed, Elena, and you got me misty eyed too. And, I'm so thankful that you're now part of my life. I've learned so much with all," these are the kinds of things that people are leaving here. And if you don't get people, if you have the opportunity to have people tell you these lovely things, you should take it. And so I hope everybody puts themselves out there a little bit more and understands that there's so much more to gain than there is to lose. I
Mhm.
think sometimes we get into this mindset where we just grab onto our little thing, whatever that is, and we have it over here and it's ours, and nobody can have it and nobody should take it away from us. But what we don't realize is we can't wrap our arms around the rest of the world, if we're clutching this over here so tightly.
Yeah.
And there's so much more out there than this little thing, right? And maybe somebody else needs this thing, whatever this is, right? And so I
Mhm.
think it's really a mind flip there, a mindset change to look at. We have so much more to gain than we have to lose, and we should open ourselves up and receive all that there is to gain. And I hope that this talk has encouraged folks. I hope people can read the book.
Oh, that's my sister.
There you go. Yep, Fear Is My
Hey, Pam.
Homeboy.
Fear is my homeboy.
And I hope that people can read it, and I hope that it empowers us, as Molly said. I hope it empowers us to take those steps and to embrace our destiny and be our best selves. So I want to thank everybody for coming on the show today. I want to thank Janet for leading the discussion today. I appreciate you, Janet.
It was improv. Thanks to this book. But I also just want to make sure to encourage everyone to check in tomorrow, because Judy's going to be on, and she's really high energy and very positive energy.
So everybody have a wonderful week. We got some great guests coming up this week, including Judi Holler, the author of Fear Is My Homeboy. Thank you so much to Francine and Laura and Victoria, and again my co-host and producer Janet. Appreciate you all so much. Thank you for being here. You all make my life better. So I hope you had a great day as well. Thanks.
Ditto.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Bye bye.
Mhm.